morning sun where the flowers bloom, colors burst like a painter's dream come true. Roses red and violets blue, every petal whispers something new. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Indoor greens and outdoor scenes, design your space, let your garden dreams glide. Personal touch with our garden.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to our live Q&A. We do this every Monday, same time, same platform that you're on right now. We're on quite a couple different platforms, and so I'll just explain to you, if you're new here, how this works is you come with your plant problems, your gardening questions, any issues that you're having, or just anything that you're curious about. And what you're going to do is you're going to comment it below, and then I'm going to be reading out the questions to Chris, who is going to answer them in live time. He has decades and decades of knowledge and experience, so I have yet to see him not be able to answer a question, so we always like to challenge the audience to ask him a particularly tricky question. I do just want to check if you could please comment and let me know how the levels are sounding, if you can hear us all right. If there's any audio issues, please let me know so I can make sure that obviously you are hearing what we're saying. That would be great. In the meantime, how are you doing today, Chris?
Great, thanks. Now, I'm thinking there may be some people sitting at home without a question.
Yeah, there could be.
And the question is, what should my question be? So everybody can have a question.
Yeah, well, true. We could even we could even ask that as well.
Yeah, I could help you with a question.
It could even be like, where do I get started with gardening? If you just have no idea, you know, you've never done anything, never planted anything in your life, this could be a space for you to just ask, where do I get started, pretty much.
Yeah, so and really, everybody starts out somewhere, and don't be embarrassed to ask a question that might, you know, make you a novice. I'm happy to answer any question. So even a question that sort of indicates that you're not a knowledgeable gardener, that's fine. I'm happy to hear it.
Exactly, you know, that's what we're here for.
Or even a question about what your question should be.
Precisely, okay. So we only do this for about 30 minutes, so it's really important that you get your question in quickly, because we tend to run out of time at the end, sadly. We just don't have enough time to answer everyone's questions. So if you are really keen on having your question answered, then make sure you comment it now, and then I will pretty much just read it in the order that the comments come up for us, and then Chris answers them. So you guys are quite quiet this morning, which is, well, this afternoon I should say. All right, here we go. First question. I have curled leaf with fruiting peaches on my mini tree. I have been picking the leaves off but worried about spraying the curled leaf.
Okay, what your problem is that during the winter, say June, July, August, a fungus got into the buds and actually did the damage. And it really doesn't matter what you do at the moment, you're not going to get rid of those curly leaves. Now that you've got the curly leaves, what it is, plenty of fertilizer, plenty of water as we go into the heat, and grow it out. New foliage, once the warm weather comes, new foliage, with plenty of fertilizer and water and stuff, new foliage will push out and displace that old damaged foliage. And then next winter, it's a Bordeaux mixture, which is named after that area of France. And you can look up on the internet how to do it, and the best way to use Bordeaux mixture is to mix it up freshly yourself. It's only 1 or 2 chemical elements that you mix together, and because when you buy it in the shop it's old, and old Bordeaux mixture doesn't work. So nice fresh Bordeaux mixture sprayed on your peaches, sprayed on your apricots, sprayed on your nectarines. During the winter is what you've got to do, and when springtime, when you see the problem, it's too late, and then all you can do in spring is fertilizer and water and grow them out. They'll grow out of it through the summer.
Great. Next question is from Aussie Dan. I had frostburn on my grass. What's the best way to get it back to normal again? And they are living in Melbourne.
Okay, so warm weather is what you need, and hopefully they will get a bit of warm weather soon. And warm weather combined with liquid fertilizer. So any sort of, like, if you go down, I don't really sell liquid fertilizers here for the lawns, but if you go down to Bunnings or any sort of place that does that sort of stuff, and buy a liquid fertilizer that you can clip onto the hose so that it sprays, and you just spray the whole lawn. And if you were to do that as the weather warms up, if you were to spray it with a liquid fertilizer, and I probably, like, organic's okay, but a good chemical one with plenty of nitrogen in it, it's probably a little bit better to green up the lawn. But do it once a week until that lawn's looking fabulous. The other thing you can do is don't cut it too short, let it grow a bit, lift your mower up, and with your spring mowing, lift it up and mow it tall, let it be tall for a while, and liquid fertilizer once a week. And you could throw a solid fertilizer on now, but solid fertilizer is going to take a month or 6 weeks to take effect, whereas liquid fertilizer, and you do your liquid fertilizer early in the morning or when it's cool and misty, like today would be a great time to go out and put out a bit of liquid fertilizer. So when you've got what it is with how liquid fertilizer works is that it comes straight in through the leaves and straight into the plant and starts working in seconds. And if you go out in hot, windy weather and the droplets of liquid fertilizer dry up in a few seconds, it only feeds for a couple of seconds. But if you go out in foggy weather, cool weather, early morning or evening, or where it's light bit of mist like you got right now, what happens is that the droplets can sit there for hours, and they feed, and it feeds for hours. And it's very, very effective. So liquid fertilizer, fantastic stuff, into the plant in minutes, but do it when the evaporation rate is very, very low.
Great. All right. Next question is Craig. He wants to know your thoughts on Buxus blight.
Buxus blight. People talk about Buxus blight, and it's a very bad thing in America. I'm yet to see any. I see lots of sick English box, and it's normally caused by poor drainage, poor soils, overwatering, lack of fertilizer. And I don't believe that Buxus blight is here in Australia, but lots of people, they've read about it online. It's a very bad problem in America. They've read about it online. They see a dead box or a brown English box and they say Buxus blight. That's my thoughts. So my thoughts are that the more likely problem is drainage, poor soils, lack of nutrients, and that can cause your box to go brown, have bits die off and things like that. So it's more likely some very simple. English box needs good drainage. It needs fairly high, like if you've got it in an old potting mix, the calcium, and you haven't refreshed it in any way, the calcium will have gone, and without calcium, English box, your normal fertilizers won't take effect unless you've got calcium in the soil. So very often people with persistent brown box, it's caused by a lack of calcium. And so what you have to do, if you've got brown box like that, perhaps in a pot or a planter, you put a good dose of lime on, say 1 kilo of dolomite lime per metre of hedge, leave it for a month, and then put on an NPK fertilizer, which could be like a dynamic lifter or an Osmocote or something like that. So it's calcium, poor drainage, they're much more likely to be an issue than actual box blight.
Yeah, great. All right, next question is from Phil, and so his indoor plants are not doing well after winter. What is the best post-winter treatment for indoor plants?
Well, what it is, it's probably a cold, we've had a long, cold, miserable winter, and today it feels like it's going on a bit longer. I would be looking to warm them up a little bit, so I'd put them in a nice warm spot, and say when you're watering them, you could use a little bit of liquid fertilizer in the water. Like a great way to water your plants is not water them too often, the indoor plants. Maybe this cooler weather, maybe every 10 or 12 days you might water them. But what you can do is put them in the laundry trough and let them really soak in the water, then let them drip dry in the trough overnight. You know, empty it out and let it also drip dry. Now, if you were to put a little bit of liquid fertilizer in there, that could really perk them up, and that's a good way to get the nutrients into them. And then put them in a nice warm spot and try and get a bit of growth on them. That's really, so watering correctly, a bit of liquid fertilizer in the water, and looking for that warm spot where they can start growing and flourishing. Most of your indoor plants come from the tropics, and they're mostly enjoying temperatures in the mid-20s.
Yeah, great. All right, so we got Aussie Girl. She is moving to Brisbane, about to move to Brisbane. In Brisbane, about to move to 55 acres. Any plans to deter snakes coming around the house?
You know, what snakes, this is a little bit experimental, but you can certainly give it a go. What snakes dislike is that they don't like things that make them smell different. So, and I think that the thing that most easily gives off smell is society garlic. And I think a border of society garlic would really stop a snake from coming through, because it's very, 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 very garlicky smell, and if a snake were to crawl through it, it would actually then smell of garlic, and snakes don't like to pick up a smell. Yeah. But anything that's sort of fragrant, like I've heard that rosemary, all of your fragrant types of plants tend to repel snakes, because the snakes are not looking to go through something and pick up a fragrance.
Yeah, awesome. And then, so Serena is in Zone 7A, first frost date November 1st, and I have a Long Island cheese pumpkin that I hand pollinated 4 to 5 days ago, and it's the size of an orange. Do you think it will mature before the frost?
No, but what is it? We've got it.
So we're in October 7 now, right now.
October 7, so we've got October 7, no, and first frost is?
November 1st.
It's going to be close. I wonder if you couldn't make a little plastic house for it or something like that, and get it through that first couple of frosts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I try and make a little hothouse for it, like a little plastic. You could put some like PVC hoops over it, and then put some plastic over it and try and keep it warm.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah.
And then Mousy has a west-facing retaining wall, clay-based soil, 5 to 6 hours morning sun, narrow gap about 20 centimeters. Any suggestions on a native to plant in such a narrow gap? So we got a narrow gap. It's like 20 centimeters. Yeah. We're getting morning sun for about 5-6 hours.
Yep.
And it's west-facing, and the soil is clay-based.
Okay, in a spot like that, I often use Little Jess. Little Jess is a really pretty little Dianella that weeps over a little bit, doesn't grow too big, and it would grow in clay, it would grow in half-day sun, and it would grow about 50 or 60 centimetres tall. And what I like about it, sort of weeps over a bit, has nice blue flowers around Christmas time. So Little Jess Dianella.
Great. All right, Dale is looking for a potted plant that will be good in shaded coastal areas.
Okay, so potted, shaded coastal.
Yeah.
I'm thinking a Plectranthus, if as long as it's not too coastal, and something like a Mona lavender or a silver Plectranthus could be really nice in a pot.
Great. How coastal is too coastal, would you say, Chris? Like, where would that plant?
If it was absolute beachfront, like when you're going to salt spray and things like that coming on, I think a Coprosma would be the go.
Okay.
Yeah. So a nice colourful Coprosma, like a Tequila Sunrise or a Pacific Sunset. Lots and lots of colour, and that would be, you can grow them virtually where the salt spray is coming off the surf.
Yeah, they're right on the edge of a salt lake in New South Wales.
Ah, right on the edge of the salt lake. I reckon Coprosma a safe bet.
Yeah, and we do have a really nice video. I mean, we posted maybe a couple weeks back now, but you can always go to our YouTube channel and just search up Coprosma, and you can find it easily. And there's a really, really beautiful planting of it done in just like a suburban front yard. All right, next question is Amanda. Can I plant a Eucalyptus Forestina 50 centimeters away from the edge of a raised garden bed?
Look, it's going to get you into trouble in the future, the roots and the trunk and everything like that. It's just a bit close to the edge. You really need to either plant something smaller there or plant it further away from that edge. Yep.
All right, Peter is tossing up between a Juniper Kitaleary cloud or a red maple tree as their feature. Which one would you pick?
The Juniper is
Keteleri, Keteleeri, Keteleri.
Okay.
Keteleri.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're in North America and you're in a spot with quite a cool winter. That's what I'm guessing.
If you want to comment any more
And
details, Peter.
and your red maple is perhaps a little bit big. And I'm wondering about a Japanese maple like a Senkaki maple or an Atropurpureum or a nice Inaba Shidare. So I think you should be looking at nice Japanese maples if you want a medium size. But if you've got a large block, a red maple would be a really nice choice. But you really got to have some space for the red maple because they get surprisingly big, particularly in a bit of good country.
Yep, great. The next question is from Jordan. What's the best treatment for buddy thetans on my OT3 palm?
And what's that?
Best treatment for buddy thetans, Thaytins. If you want to, thetans on my OT3 palm. This one here.
My OT3 palm.
Could it be a mistype at all, Jordan?
Yeah, I think it could be. I think we might. That's a little. We need that perhaps a little bit better spelled out for us.
Yeah, if you want to maybe, John, just comment again with some more details.
Yeah.
Or just check the spelling.
Yeah, it sounds like he's got a bug on a particular type of palm, but it's not quite typed up right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. If you just want to comment again, John, we'll go back to your question. But for now, we'll move on to the next one. What's the best plant you recommend for my first? First plant.
Your very first plant.
Yep.
I wonder if it's going to be a pot plant. First plant, what you want is you want something that you can have a bit of fun with and something that you can... If I was in Melbourne, which I am, first plant. Actually, it's a funny thing. The first thing that got me interested in gardening was radishes.
Oh.
And it was because I was only about 4 or 5 and I bought a packet of radish seed, and they occurred within a period of time that I could understand what was going on. I think they only take about 3 or 4 weeks from seeding to being able to eat them, and the shortness. And then from there I got into we used to have sunflowers coming up from where we cleaned out our bird cage, and he lived on sunflowers. So. And the speed at which sunflowers grew really amazed me. But as a first plant, I think you could get a lot of pleasure from a weeping maple.
Yep.
And a weeping maple, you could keep that on your patio in a pot, like a nice little weeping maple. And there's lots of different colours and shapes and things like that. And you can get the tallest one, but you could one of them could grow in a courtyard. It could grow in a big pot, it could grow in a smallish pot. Like there's all different sizes and colours and things like that, and it's a thing that you can keep for many years and really get a lot of enjoyment from in many seasons. So as they get older, they get more and more exciting and more interesting to look at and more valuable, I guess. So a weeping maple would be, and they're quite simple and easy to grow, so that would be a very good starting out plant that would create interest for an adult.
Amazing. All right, next one is they've put a black tulip magnolia in an open bottom planter, 1.2 meters wide and length 60 centimeters. Did the same for Shibara maple. Not sure if it was okay to not plant them directly on the ground.
The open, I often advise people, like, what happens is that if you put a plant in a pot, and a valuable plant, like both the Inaba Shidare and your black tulip are both very valuable, hard to get plants really, and so if you're to put them in a pot, the problem is you go on holidays, you got your friend watering it, they don't know how to water properly, you come back, it's dead because it's in a pot. It can only live on that water that's in the pot. But if you use a container that's got an open bottom and they can root into the ground underneath, and you cultivate that ground up, mix a bit of potting mix in and allow them, and like I often with my garden designs, I get somebody and they want to have a big fancy pot on the front lawn with a big plant in it, and the plant they want's a big expensive plant. I'm thinking, my God, this thing will be dead in 12 months if they put it in a pot. And I get them to do those open big containers with an open bottom. I get them to cultivate and dig and put nice potting mix in that and encourage it to come down underneath it. And it's like an insurance policy. When they get neglected for a couple of days in hot weather, they're still going to survive if they're rooted down into the garden. So I love the idea of an open bottom container. It means that if you can't pick it up and move it too easily, but it means that those plants can survive those little oopses, you know, where they don't get watered for a couple of days and it's pretty hot and dry or windy or something like that. So the open bottom container is something I'm recommending to people almost every day.
Okay. Sorry, I just saw your comment now. They got disconnected when Chris was answering. Basically, he said that it's not really great to have such a... Do you want to quickly maybe do a recap?
Which one's that?
The one that you just answered. Just do a really quick recap because they got disconnected when you were answering it.
Okay, so I love the idea of an open bottom container. What it is that valuable plants like your black tulip and your Japanese maple, and they become more and more valuable as they get older. If you go away for a couple of days and it's hot and windy and your friend who was supposed to water them doesn't get around to it and they shrivel up and in a pot, they've only got the water that's in the pot. So when that water's gone, they can shrivel up and die or become badly damaged. Whereas if you do them in an open bottom container, and then what you do is you cultivate underneath the container, perhaps mix a bit of nice potting mix in there and encourage the roots to come down out of it and grow into the ground, and they'll grow out and spread under the ground. What happens is that on that hot or difficult day, what you're going to find is that the plant doesn't die. It can draw its water from outside the container. So I love the idea and I recommend it to people all the time.
Yep, great. All right, we're going to move on to the next question, which is, Katrina, any tips for growing roses in pots?
I think the main thing, there's probably three things. First of all, use a biggish pot. Don't use tiny pots. Roses, their roots grow very quick and they can have quite a big root system. So use a good sized pot. So say you did a 3-foot standard rose, minimum size would be a 30 centimetre pot, and you could use up to a 40 centimetre or 50 centimetre pot. So a nice big pot, then plenty of fertilizer, and amongst that fertilizer, like once or twice a year, you need a bit of lime in there, a bit of dolomite lime. So plenty of fertilizer, dolomite lime, and then plenty of water. We keep our roses here for sale purposes in fairly small pots, and we would water them twice on a really hot day, and every other warm dry day we'd water them at least once. So regular water, regular fertilizer, and use a nice big pot, and then put that pot in a nice sunny spot so that reduces disease and causes them to flower more and have more dense, nice foliage.
Yeah, cool. Also, could just people let us know if the video is lagging or not, just over on Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. I think we're fine on TikTok, but I think we're getting a little bit stoppy-starty. If people could just comment and let us know if you can still watch the live okay. Maybe it's like an internet problem. In the meantime, I'm going to ask another question over on TikTok because I know we run that through something else, so that will be fine. Next question is my Monstera Adansoni variegated has reverted. Can I get the variegation back? That's interesting.
What's that question again?
So the Monstera has reverted, like it's variegated, but it's reverted. Can they get the variegation back?
You'd have to be lucky. You've probably got a better chance of winning tats than getting the variegated back.
Is there anything they can be doing?
Let it grow, and the variegation is in the genetics of that particular plant, and it may produce another variegated branch, and if it produces another variegated branch, you would then cut off all the other branches and keep your variegated branch. But basically, variegation is a deformity, and how variegated plants come about is that deformity will occur, and then a horticulturalist will then propagate and reproduce that deformity, and you'll get lots of variegated plants. And in some plants, the variegations are unstable and they tend to revert, and it's very hard to get them to go back to it. There's like I said, you've got a better chance of winning tats than of getting it to come back. But you could just let it grow on and hope for it to throw another variegated piece, and if it does, you would then trim it back.
It looks like the video's lagging a little bit. I mean, as long as you guys can hear okay, sorry about any of the video technical issues. We are going to round up soon in maybe about 5-ish minutes. I'm not quite sure on the technical side why the video is freezing, so sorry about that, guys. We'll move on to the next question, which is, how do I revive my dwarf jasmine, brown leaves and not much growth, planted in semi-shade?
Right, it doesn't sound good. Brown leaf. Well, my first question is, are there any green leaves? Because without green leaves, there's not much you can do. But probably, if I really wanted to revive something like that, I would perhaps consider digging it back up, putting it in a pot, putting it in the sun, and see if we could stimulate some new growth on it. And perhaps a little bit of fertilizer, and don't have it too wet. Plants with brown leaves don't use much water, so just keep it moist without being too wet.
Yeah. All right, then next I will ask, what should I be feeding citrus tree while they're flowering?
Our lemon tree's been flowering and fruiting like crazy, and they seem to almost go into a tailspin from lack of nutrients, and a foliar nutrient, a liquid fertilizer like what do I think of? Power feed would be really good. That'll get some food over the foliage and in around the roots. That'll get food into it really quickly, and then something like Osmocote will come in a bit slower. So if you did power feed combined with Osmocote, and you can use a citrus Osmocote or an all-purpose Osmocote with some liquid power feed, that's like a fast rescue. And you do that every week for a few weeks now, and whack on the slow release at the same time, and that should rescue the situation. But your citrus, when they're flowering and fruiting, do use a lot of energy and need plenty of tucker.
Yeah. Phil has a bay leaf plant potted and it's struggling with discoloured leaf. Best treatment, please.
Okay, so basically your bay tree loves lime, and with a lack of lime, it can't process your NPK fertilizer. So what I don't know how big your but say your bay tree is, but say your bay tree was in a 50 centimetre pot. I reckon you could put 3 cupped handfuls of dolomite lime around it, leave it for a month, and let the water wash it in, and then you could put 3 or 4 teaspoonfuls of Osmocote on it, and that should green it up.
Yep. The next question is, how do I safely transport a giant bird of paradise?
Transport or transplant?
They said transport. Maybe they answered transport and transplant. It could have been a typo.
Okay. Well, transport, you just lay them down in a covered vehicle so the leaves didn't shatter too badly in the wind. But transplant, what you would do is you would dig it up with plenty of root and plenty of those sort of big bulb at the bottom. So you dig a trench around it, and it'd be quite hard work. You dig a trench around it, and get a nice earthen ball with plenty of root on it, and you'd eventually lay it over, and then you could get an old sheet or a piece of hessian or tarp or something like that, make a sling, and you can carry it to the next site. And then what I would do is I would cut 85% of all green leaves off it immediately.
Yeah, they're definitely talking about transporting it from like the nursery centre to home safely.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah.
So the main thing is there's two ways you do it. One in an open ute or an open vehicle. If you travel, and it's annoying to do, but if you travel at about 55k, I've transported all sorts of plants, and I found that if I'm under 60k's, they look the same when I leave the spot as when I get to the spot. And I've driven 50 miles with beautiful rhododendrons in flower, and it's slow, boring work. But if you do it at under 60k's, they'll be exactly perfect. Or you put them in a covered vehicle. Some nurseries have got vans covered in vans that they'll do the deliveries with, and that's really an ideal situation. Or slow delivery on an open vehicle.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid, like they're often quite tall and narrow. Say you had a station wagon, what you could do is slip the pot into a garbage bag and lay it down inside the station wagon. And laying them, a lot of people worry about laying big plants on their side, but a well-grown hardy plant can lay on its side, no worries, and particularly a giant bird of paradise.
Amazing. All right, I'm only going to ask, let's say, 2 or 3 more questions, depending on how long it takes Chris to answer. So sorry to anyone whose question I don't get to, but we do these lives every week, so you're more than welcome to come to next week's live, same time, same platform, same day. But as always, if you do have an urgent question, you can ring us up, you can email us, you can come in store, we're in Campbellfield, and ask any of our staff your questions. So let's see, all right, Lucky, let's see, what next one? Dagnar has black spots on rose leaves. What can you kind of do there?
You can buy a rose fungicide. Bunnings has a really good range. I don't work for Bunnings, but they have a really good range of fungicides in there. Or at this time of year, you might buy, there's dual purpose insecticide and fungicide, and that could be a good thing to do right now. So you hit, because you'll be just starting to get it. I was just looking at our roses here in the nursery and thinking I'll have to spray them this week, something to knock off the insects and the fungus would be a good thing. So, but you can get just a straight fungicide for roses in at Bunnings, or you can get yourself a insecticide and fungicide mixed together.
Yep. And then Serena would like to know, can I plant broccoli now, or is 4 to 5 weeks not enough time to get frost hardy? Zone 7A, first frost on November 1st.
It's getting a little bit, depending on how severe your frosts are, but it is getting a little bit late. We're actually in Melbourne, Australia, we plant broccoli every day of the year because we don't have many serious frosts, but I would say you're probably getting a bit late unless lots of people are selling little plastic hutches for growing plants in, and you could maybe look at doing a little plastic hutch, and then you should be able to extend your season a lot. So like a little plastic cover, and also like a raised garden bed. A raised bed can help with a plastic cover on it. So basically you might look at covering them and extending your season. There you go. And it's amazing what a plastic cover can do in terms of extending your season.
Great, I hope that's fixed the lag for everyone on Instagram, YouTube and Facebook. All fixed for the last question, which is going to be, let's see, let's ask this one. So in another slightly longer open bottom planter, 2.4 meters long, I put a dwarf olive in the middle and smoke tree and California lilac on its sides, 80 centimeters between. Was I too ambitious?
You were very ambitious. But the thing is that if you want all of those plants, you can get away with it, and what it's going to take is judicious pruning in the future as they grow, because just the Californian lilac could fill that whole space. We did a video on a Californian lilac the other day. I don't know if it's come out yet, but it was a good 4 meters wide. But there was that lovely blue one.
I think it has, yeah. I'm pretty sure it's been posted.
Yeah, so a Californian lilac would almost qualify as a small tree.
Yeah.
So basically I think very ambitious, but if you keep them all trimmed, you should be able to have them all functioning and working together now that you've done it.
Yeah, exactly. Great. Well, that was our last question for today's live. Thank you everyone who came and participated and asked their questions. Obviously we can't run this live without your questions. It'd be pretty boring. So thank you everyone, and we hope that we will see you again next week. If you're not already following us, why? You should go follow us. We have incredible content. We post every day, all sorts of educational content and some funny stuff as well when we feel like it. So we're pretty much on every platform, and we'd really love it if you could tell more people about these lives. We want to help as many people as possible. Also, yeah, you can share the picture. We can't see the picture that you're sharing. I only get the comments, by the way, just for the person commenting on Instagram. about wanting to share a photo, I can only get like the written word comments, but if you want to DM us, feel free to do it. It was about the really ambitious pot.
Right.
Just DM us on Instagram and then I can get Chris to have a look at that and respond. But yeah, in the meantime, have a wonderful rest of your Monday and hopefully we will see you next time.
Bye.
In the morning sun, where the flowers bloom, colors burst like a painter's dream come true. Roses red and violets blue, every petal whispers something new. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello, plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello, plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Indoor greens and outdoor scenes, design your space, let your garden dreams glide. Personal touch with our garden design, free sessions to blend within your budget line.